we're here today to talk about women and retirement. I do need to point out as we get started that the views of the panelists are their own individual views and not the views of the congressman.
This is maybe something that is always hard to talk about in a way, but what is the future? Let's take Social Security for a moment. I mean, the financial situation, we hear about it all the time as a political issue, but from a financial perspective, what is the situation with Social Security, and how do you see the next 25 years of Social Security developing?
That's a big question.
Yeah.
Well, the trustees of Social Security issue a report every year, and usually spring. It's a little late this year. It's probably going to be pretty close to what they've been saying for the last several years, and that is that the Social Security program, not Max Richmond, but the trustees, or Congressman Ashford, but the trustees say it's able to pay everybody every penny they're entitled to for the next 20 years, and without anything changing. And if there are no changes, there'll be a shortfall of about 20% after that. We don't want that to happen. I mean, we're a senior citizen lobbying group. It doesn't mean we have our heads in the sand. We don't want to get to the point where there is a shortfall. Now, to have perspective on this, the last time there was a crisis. This is not a crisis. But it was in the early 80s when it was about 6 or 7 months and there would be a shortfall. And there were some dramatic changes that happened. The Greenspan Commission, President Reagan, Tip O'Neill, Senator Dole, Senator Moynihan got together and they made some changes that put it on sound footing until the year 2034. So those kinds of changes are ones that a lot of people are looking at. But I think it's, to go to really I think the heart of your question, it's important for people not to be caught up in some of the myths about the program, that it's bankrupt, it's broke, it's just gone. The only way Social Security could ever be broke if we had zero employment, because there'd be no money coming in. That's the only way it could be broke. But there is this long-term solvency issue that needs to be addressed. Now, what we advocate is a bill. There are several bills in the Congress, and I've talked about this with the congressman before he was a congressman and since he's been in the Congress. There are proposals that would bring more revenue into the program and bring more fairness into the program. Right now, there's a cap on wages subject to the payroll tax. We know that, right? The FICA tax, and it is capped at $118,500. Then it stops. No more payroll tax. So one of the proposals that we're looking at carefully in the Congress, there's some of that would eliminate it altogether. There's some that would start it again, and we support this at $400,000 a year. So people making between $118,000 and $400,000 would not pay more, but those making over $400,000 would pay a little more and would get additional benefits to make it a little more progressive. And I think it's reasonable. I mean, when you look, I did a little research on a study that was put out by a association of CEOs, some of the biggest CEOs in the country, and on Social Security. And their solution was raise the age, reduce the benefit, reduce the cost of a living adjustment, lower benefits, basically. That's what raising the age does. And I was curious about this group, and one of the members of this association, he stopped paying payroll tax when he had lunch on New Year's Day. I did the arithmetic. He made $54 million that year.
It's a good day.
It's a good day. So he reached that $118,500 cap at noon on January 1st. Now there's something wrong with that. And in fact, a lot of people that are paying into Social Security don't even realize there's a cap because they pay on all their income. They figure everybody does. They never get close to that.
What are some of the advantages that somebody would get by paying more into the system?
Well, if they pay more under this proposal, their benefits, right now the benefits are computed on the number of quarters that you work. You have to have 40 quarters, and it is impacted by the highest number. So those individuals would get more in benefits. And I think that is, you need to do that to sell it. By the way, this proposal that I'm talking about it has been introduced in the House by Congressman John Larson, and it has some appeal, I think bipartisan appeal, because it would also cut the tax on Social Security benefits. Right now, if you have above a certain income and are receiving Social Security benefits, you pay federal income tax on those benefits. And this bill would change the thresholds so that in effect you would be, as a Social Security beneficiary, paying less tax. So it has, some appeal, I think, across the board, improving benefits, yes, raising some payroll tax for the wealthy, and reducing federal income tax for Social Security, some Social Security.
One of the things that's interesting about John Larson's proposal, and I've talked to him about it several times, and it's interesting because it seems to me that what I get a lot of pushback on is people that would suggest that somehow the means testing of Social Security, that somehow if they earn more money, they shouldn't get as much or any, in some cases, Social Security. That doesn't seem fair either. If somebody was successful and has paid into the Social Security system, that's why the Larson proposal theoretically makes some sense, because they get an advantage. They pay more, over $400,000, but there is an advantage in what they receive.
Right.
As opposed to saying, well, you're wealthy, we're not going to, you don't get Social Security.
You don't need it.
Well,
you don't need it.
Yeah, you don't need it, but that's not the point.
Right.
It's not that you don't need it. It's you pay for it. It's
pay for it.
insurance.
Yeah.
Right.
Social Security. You know the term FICA. Federal Insurance Contribution Act funds old age survivor and disability programs.
It's an old act.
Yeah. So to say, like Governor Christie said about a month ago, if you end up in your life having a lot of money, you shouldn't get that Social Security. Well, you didn't know that when you were started out.
No.
And why would anyone support a program thinking, well, if I do well, it's not gonna benefit me?
And that's sort of counterintuitive, because what we want people to do is do well in this country. If they're very, very successful because of their own efforts, then, and they've paid in, as you suggest, maybe they were 50 when they made the money they made,
yeah.
But they paid in all the way through. And when they were 35, they thought, well, at least I'm going to get, some Social Security benefit. So I'm not persuaded that someone who makes money, a lot of money, ought to not get the benefit.
It doesn't. When you think about Social Security, it's social insurance. That's what Medicare is, Social Security. If you take out fire insurance and your house burns down, and the insurance company, an Omaha insurance company, will come and say, well, you have a lot of money, we're not going to pay you.
Yeah.
You could rebuild it yourself.
Yeah.
You would laugh at that. Or if your car is an accident, but you had a lot of money, and your insurance company says, well, you don't need it. You can afford to replace your car. That's not the point of insurance.
It's easy to sort of politicize it and get a soundbite out of it, but I'm in the camp that wants to work with Max and senior citizens and those that are going to be retiring soon to come up with the right solution. And it's going to take coming together, and it's going to take a bipartisan effort.